Hey guys, so it's like 5:30 Friday evening, and I've been out here in the studio just kind of tidying up for the last maybe 5 or 6 hours. Finally got around to cleaning up. It's been probably 2 years overdue at least. So, but anyway, somebody asked in the comments if I would do a studio tour, so I figured now that it's clean, might be a good time to show you guys around. So that's what we'll do. So my studio is actually a converted garage. It was like a 2-car garage, but back in the 50s, I believe, it was converted into like a little cottage. So they removed the garage door and they put like a ceiling in here with acoustic tiles. And when I moved in, it was really dark in here. So I took out the low ceiling, and then I installed skylights so that I got natural light in here. And the skylights are north facing, so I don't get a lot of direct light into the studio. It's sort of just this overall even light, which is great. And then in the mornings around here, a lot of times it's foggy. So mornings is a particularly good time in here. Lots of nice even light. So I'll show you another view. So that first view was from the door looking into the studio, and now we're looking towards the door, although it's out of frame. But anyway, so I've got shelves here that I made with the leftover wood from when I demoed the ceiling. So I've got, you know, a lot of stuff up here, like mostly boxes of canvas, these are all painted on, these canvases up here. Some old computers and just random things, some frames in the corner. And then you guys have probably seen this is my rolling pallet. And it's basically just an old kitchen table that I put into a rolling tray that I built. And up on top, I have a piece of maple plywood or birch plywood that I use for a pallet. It's kind of just a scrap. You can see it's got like, you know, jagged cuts. And then I just put I sealed it with Varathane so that it wouldn't soak the oil out of the paint. And then over here I've just got like my medium and stuff. I think I've given a tour of this before, but for those of you who haven't seen it, there's my big brush cleaner, sort of medium to large brushes, smaller brushes, just random palette knives and things like that. Putty knives are always really handy to have around for scraping the palette and maybe scraping down a painting as well. Some other things to show you. I've got this old, it's kind of an old utility cabinet with, you know, I've got a radio up on top, CD player, and so lately, let's see, Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, Compact Jazz, Best of Bossa Nova, some Frank Sinatra, kind of in a mellow mood lately. These are all really good. Like this is, you know, Kind of Blue is a classic. I'm sure most people have heard of that. And this Bossa Nova is just, it's all just, you know, it's a variety of different artists, but I love that. It makes me feel like I'm on vacation. Up top here, I've just got like stir sticks, picture of my kid when she was little, that's Emma. And here I've got like Varathane, which is what I coat my frames with. Here's some just measuring cups that I use for mixing up different medium mixtures. Here's my, this is gesso, one without pumice and one with pumice mixed in. Some gloves. Then in my drawer here, a bunch of random things. Lots of plastic putty knives, which again are really handy, various different sizes. And then also some clamps, which are handy. A bunch of binder clips in here. Just random stuff, a little funnel. And then this box here, or this tray, whatever, this thing has lots of paint that's like, was either given to me or it's just not colors that I usually use. Like this one, what's this? This is like Grumbacher Phthalo Green. I mean, some of this stuff could be fun to experiment with. So anyway, I don't want to throw it away, and so I reach into here and experiment periodically. Down below, let's see, I've got things like, you know, I've got, this is linseed oil and Gamsol. Here's some liquid, this is retouch varnish, which I spray my paintings with before I send them out. Just some various containers with more mineral spirits. Some stand oil, which is like thickened linseed oil. Down below, some bits of canvas, dust masks, and what's this? Oh, here's a viewfinder for compositions, you know, when you're outside composing. It's kind of a big one, but anyway, so that's the cabinet. These are all painted on, these canvases up above mostly, but down below I have all the most of the new canvases, like boxes of, well, you can see here, those are like 24 by 30s, and here there's like a box of 30 by 30 of linen. There are a few paintings there leaning up against it that have been painted on. Then over here I've got a lot of scraps of cardboard that I use for packing when I ship, you know, not when I ship paintings, but when I load them up in the car or a truck. And some extra foam, a couple of 2-foot by 4-foot panels or canvases here. And then a bookshelf with just, I don't know, random stuff like old yearbooks and things like that. Okay, so over in the corner by the door, I've got my wood pile. This is where I keep the smaller pieces of wood that I use for framing. On the other side of the door, I've got the larger pieces that I mill down to make frames. And then up higher, I've got racks that I use for storing the big frames over to the left, and then the smaller frames over here to the right. Always got to have a chair so you can sit down and stare at your painting and figure out what it needs. So I'll show you the easel. Basically, I put it on, it was also made from wood that I demoed out of this place when I, you know, kind of converted it and opened up the ceiling. So let me show you what it looks like. So this thing rolls around. I put wheels on it, which has been really great. And yeah, it can hold this is a 30 by 30 canvas, and it can hold canvases. Let's see, I did a 3-foot by 5-foot canvas on it recently, and it was actually really stable for that. But mostly the biggest I do are like, say, you know, like 36 by 36 is pretty common, and or some of the like 2-foot by 4-foot panoramas. But it can hold, you know, it could probably go bigger, but that's about the size I've been doing on it lately. And it kind of has some adjustments on the back. I made it so that you could tilt it, and so these adjustments allow me to tilt it to any angle, including tilting it forward a little bit past vertical. And the idea then is if you're painting on it, the drips of paint will not drop onto the painting or run down on the painting. Although I know that's a stylish thing these days. But so yeah, so this is made out of like Douglas fir, I believe. That's probably, I don't know, it's got to be 70 years old maybe. So it's super hard wood and nice quality too. So I think this easel will be around for a while. Okay, so behind the easel are more shelves. Up above, just got like things like, you know, holiday ornament type stuff and old, you know, my daughter's old artwork, things like that. And then a bunch of plein air frames that I just don't use anymore, gold and black frames. This shelf is just more or less my, like, you know, stuff for building frames. Like I use Titebond glue. Here's the Varathane for coating the frames. I've got, let's see, professional acrylic gesso for panels, which I have right here. These are masonite panels that are in need of gessoing. And they're just all in random, you know, random shapes and sizes. These pieces are scraps, but I think they'd make some kind of interesting panoramas. Then you guys have seen before the boxes and boxes of paintings. There's more there. So yeah, I showed you guys the boxes of paintings. 1, 2, 3, 4, all in old wine boxes. Down below I've got musical equipment from back when I played in bands. This is an old Fender 212 cabinet, and it's probably from the late 60s. Some guy told me it was Jerry Garcia's when I bought it. I was 13, so I would believe anything. Anyway, but yeah, I bought it in like 1978 maybe, something like that. Anyway, and then just some other musical equipment. Also more musical equipment in these boxes. Over in the corner, more guitars. Let's see, an old sailing jacket here. I used to teach sailing. And then all my just various backpacks. So there's a couple of things I'd point out that I think have been really great in here. First is the skylights, so I'll show you those. Okay, so the skylights are 2-foot by 4-foot skylights. And as you can see, I put 3 of them in there. Like I said, they're north facing, so I don't get a lot of direct light into the studio here. you can see there's like kind of a nice, even, diffused light in here, but it's still bright. Another thing that I think is really helpful is on the floor, I have these interlocking like mats. For 20 bucks, I bought the whole thing. It's like 4 pieces. They're like maybe a ½ inch thick. So sometimes I'll detach that one and I'll like bring it outside if I'm gonna be on the saw all day. It really helps with leg fatigue. So having this mat in here has been great. The only thing is, I think it's like 4 feet by 4 feet. The only thing I do differently, I mean, it's easy enough to change. I can just go to Lowe's and buy maybe another couple packs of them, because I find that it would just be nice to have a bigger area that was padded. So another thing that's really helpful in the studio is to have good lighting. And I like everything in the studio to be completely like, you know, modular or movable, you know. So like my palette is movable, my easel's movable. I can move this, you know, the pad anywhere I want. Even my like cabinet that I showed you, that's on wheels. So everything's on wheels. So I can rearrange things if I want to. And so my lighting is no different. So basically what I did, I'll show you. So I just installed some outlets and then I just plug in clip-on lights. And so I've got outlets on this beam right here. And then there's another beam right here. This one doesn't have, you can see the outlet up there, a receptacle. And then over here is another one. And this one I've got the light clipped up high there. It's really nice to be able to move them around, and I think I have 100-watt bulbs in these. They're really inexpensive, you know, like $7 or $8 for the clip-on lights, and the bulbs they're nothing fancy. But it's been really great having it, you know, so that I can move them around. It kind of takes a while to experiment and find lighting that works. It's really nice having a cleaned up space to work in. It kind of took me all day. It was pretty exhausting, but it makes it much more inspiring to come out here. The weather is, even though it's like foggy and kind of windy, it's still in here, it gets nice and warm. During the winter, you know, it's not insulated, so I mean, in the Bay Area here, it doesn't get super cold, but it's still cold enough that I'm usually not that inspired to come out here. So I have a little space heater, but usually during the winter time, I paint a lot of times. I'll do smaller work in the kitchen, or if it's a nice day, I'll go out and do plein air painting. So so that's really it for the studio tour. But since we're in here, and I know you guys like looking at older work, maybe I'll pull out some old work and we could take a look at that. So I'll go to the boxes and see what I could find. Okay, so I grabbed a box of paintings from 2007. They're 8x10 panels, and that was the first year that I started showing in a gallery. So this will give you sort of an idea of what my work looked like back then. So the first painting I have here is of a house in my neighborhood, and this is an old Victorian, and I just always liked, you know, driving by it, I always liked the way the light played upon it, and I thought, oh, that'd make a great painting. So I finally got around to it, and I believe this was spring of 2007. Okay, so the next one I believe was in the summer of 2007, and this is East Beach down in Santa Barbara. And so if you're from Santa Barbara area, you may recognize this building. I was standing kind of by the ocean looking towards the hills, obviously. But this was done in plein air. Was that first? The Victorian, I think, was done from a photograph, but this was a plein air painting done, I believe, early in the morning. Okay, so, and then here, this one is of Lake Berryessa. It's some buoys, Lake Berryessa up in Napa County, I believe, or Sonoma County, I'm not sure which. But it's just north of the Golden Gate by maybe an hour. And this was done in April of 2007. And as I pulled it out of the box, I noticed that it had a ribbon on the back. And so I guess I entered this in the Redwood City Annual Spring Art Show, and I got an honorable mention in that show. That's some work from 2007. Like I said, I've been painting 4 years, or almost 4 years at that time, just very close to 4 years. So, and like I said, it was the first year I started showing in a gallery, at Studio Gallery. Somebody asked in the comments how I felt about my older work, whether, you know, I destroy old work, or if I was worried about people seeing my old work. And you know, I'm showing you, like, I've gotten lucky. Some of the ones I pulled out of the box are, you know, they're all pretty they're not bad paintings, you know, even some of the really early ones from the beginning. But even the ones that are not so good, I haven't destroyed anything. And I don't really have any plans to do that, because it's funny, most of the paintings I have are all my early work, because at a certain point most of my stuff started selling or going out into the world, and I don't have a lot after, say, I don't know what date it would be, you know, probably around, you know, 5 years ago or 6 years ago I started selling, you know, pretty regularly. I mean, it didn't happen, like I wouldn't sell out of everything immediately, but I'd kind of move it around, and eventually, you know, they would sell. So I don't have a lot of my, you know, the good work from those years, from say the past 5 to 7 years is gone, or it's out in the world. But yeah, so all these older pieces, no, I hang on to them, and I wouldn't destroy them. I remember seeing somewhere that people had a party. They were like, you know, I can't remember, I saw that on, maybe it was, I don't remember, somebody's blog, where they found it liberating to get together and like cut up old paintings and, you know, whatever. But I don't know, even the ones that didn't turn out, I don't really feel like, I feel like just, you know, hanging on to them, and it's all just part of the journey. And it's kind of fun to look back at them sometimes. It's interesting how I can remember, with almost all of them, I can remember, you know, what the inspiration was, or maybe, you know, some of the details about actually painting it, which is kind of unusual, or not unusual, but it's kind of surprising to me. So anyway, yeah, I hang on to all the old stuff. I don't care who sees it. I mean, you know, I'm not worried about that. So that's why I'm sharing a lot of it with you here. A lot of this work doesn't reflect what I'm doing now, but I think it's still interesting to look at, and probably interesting maybe for you guys to see, like, you know, the different stages of development. I always have fun digging through these boxes, and you know, I guess from the comments you guys are kind of enjoying seeing some of them too, so that's cool. I'm sure I'll continue to do it. I can, you know, give you an example here. I have plenty to look at, so we could do this for years. So anyhow, hope you like this studio tour and looking at old work. And let me know if you got ideas for future videos. If you want anything, you know, want me to talk about anything or whatever, you know, just leave a comment and I'll see if I can make a video about it. But other than that, thanks for hanging out, guys, and I will see you in the next video.